Alright, it's day 26 of me picking an album from this filter, working out to it, and giving it a review. This is a series I've been doing called Muscle Music, and I only do albums I've never listened to before. I've never done Let It Bleed. Let's do it. Alright, we're back from the gym. We did our push day today, so here are my thoughts on Let It Bleed by the Rolling Stones. So I've never really been the biggest Rolling Stones fan. Obviously I know a fair bit of their singles, and actually a lot of them appear on this album. I would say this album is a big reason why a lot of classic rock radio stations are still alive today. And for good reason. A lot of the tracks on this album are pretty great. They kind of transition away from their earlier 60s sound where they're doing a bit more of a traditional, British rock-esque sound. But they kind of lean a bit more into the blues sound. Some tracks even have like a country rock or like a country blues-ish sound to it. And I think the album's better for it. There's even some elements of this album where tracks are gospel and soul inspired, especially the last track, You Can't Always Get What You Want, which is just a classic track, you have to listen to it. And even the opening track, Gimme Shelter, has this cool back and forth, soul inspired, vocal performance. It's just great. I was even surprised by the track Country Honk, which is another kind of single, a song that I've heard on the radio growing up a lot. But I feel like the one that I've heard is more of a rockin' tune. This one's kind of more of a laid back, like, country style, everyone's sitting around a campfire sound to it. So I'm not sure where the studio version, or like the radio edit, comes from, but still a pretty good track. Also, coming from a vocalist, the vocal performance on this album, in one word, I would say is like inconsistent. There are tracks where Mick Jagger sounds amazing and his timbre and his note placement are just perfect. And then there are tracks where he just sounds very sloppy, almost in like a drunken sense, which sometimes works in his favor and sometimes doesn't. So yeah, he probably could have done a little bit better. But I mean, on the bigger tracks, it sounds pretty great. So I also think the lyricism on a lot of this album is pretty interesting as well, especially the track Gimme Shelter in the beginning, talking about, war and children is just a shot away, especially with the Vietnam War kind of ramping up. So there's that. And then there's also tracks like Monkey Man, which just, you have Mick Jagger screeching about how he's a monkey man right before You Can't Always Get What You Want. So also kind of all over the place, but again, the bigger tracks are pretty compelling, at least in terms of lyrics. So overall, I thought it was a pretty compelling album, especially to work out to. Pretty great. My favorite tracks have to go to Country Honk, Midnight Rambler, Gimme Shelter, as well as You Can't Always Get What You Want. But again, as someone who's not really a big Rolling Stones guy, I thought it was a pretty great album. I think a lot of tracks could be a bit more compelling, a bit more interesting outside of a gym environment, but still pretty great. If I had to give it a rating, probably a low to mid 8, somewhere in that region, yeah. Like and follow for more, unless this app gets banned. Goodbye!